So, what are you gonna be doing with those seeds, Frank?
Oh, I was thinking of planting them for like apple trees, you know?
Okay. Yeah. What are you gonna do with them?
Oh, I think it's gonna go through photosynthesis. Oh, nice, yeah.
Hey, what are you guys doing?
Oh, we're planting seeds for an apple tree, and I think it's gonna use photosynthesis to grow up to be a big tree.
Damn, cool.
Well, I think we're just gonna leave it here for a few weeks. It'll probably go into an actual tree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright.
See ya.
Do plants grow?
You see, Franco's right about photosynthesis being a key factor for plants' growth. Photosynthesis is a process where plants take in carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight in order to grow. Now you might be wondering, when it takes in the reactants, what process does it go through, and what does it make when it's fully grown? That's what we're going to be talking about today in this short presentation on this life cycle of matter and energy. Because plants need photosynthesis to grow, it requires three things: water, light, and carbon dioxide. Once these reactants come together, photosynthesis occurs and the plant gives off oxygen and glucose. Now that we know the reactants that cause photosynthesis and the products that come from photosynthesis, let's find out what happens on the inside with the chloroplast during photosynthesis. At the chloroplast, the first stage of photosynthesis within begins, which is known as light-dependent reactions. Light-dependent reactions are when sunlight and water molecules are broken down into oxygen molecules. The sunlight is also transferred into ATP, transferring energy around the chloroplast. Now that the chloroplast has gone through stage 1 of photosynthesis, it's time for it to go through stage 2, light-independent reactions. In light-independent reactions, carbon dioxide molecules are used to build sugars and are passed through the stroma, the fluid outside the thylakoids. Through this fluid, 6 carbon simple sugars are produced. The sugars are often used to build starches and cellulose and are stored within the plants. Now that we know how plants get bigger through photosynthesis, we have to now figure out how do they get their reactants and how do we, the consumers, react when we take in their oxygen and sugar. We shall be discussing this in the second part of our presentation.
Hey, remember when we planted seeds over there?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So why did you guys plant the tree?
Well, it was a science experiment, but since the tree's here, we can use it for healthy, organic treats in the school.
Oh, that
Because
seems to make
kids
sense.
could eat apples if they don't eat lunch. And it's here, it's free. Come eat an apple, please.
Well, the moment you said that, it seems to be there's some apples on the tree.
See? Look.
Oh, there are apples.
Hey, there's
I'm
apples
gonna
on
get
there.
Let's just make sure we watch them first.
one. Yeah, 'cause I got apples. Do come with us, though. In my mouth. Bye. Bye, Dana.
Let's see the apple tree finally grow some apples. Wait.
What happened?
Where's Destiny?
Where'd she go?
Did you leave? What?
How do we lose her? What?
Instant transmission.
Instant transfer.
Anyway, I want to try these apples.
Oh, this is great.
10 out of 10 good apples.
Yeah.
Well, since we got enough energy, I say we can exercise for a little bit.
Okay.
All right,
That's good.
Let's go run. Let's go start off with a run. Wait, where's Frank?
No.
That was not hard though. What the heck? How are you so tired? Get up.
I don't want to do it anymore.
Get up.
The apple poisoned me. You didn't give me glucose.
Well, since this man is tired, I think I'm just gonna go find someone to race because he's too slow. Since because I couldn't find anyone to race, I decided to race Frank when he was done resting. No! Come on. You can do it. It's just one step. Come on, Frank. Okay, let me just say first that Frank needs to work on his muscle, because as far as I know, he can barely do a single push-up, but I know he can get there. Anyway, when they mentioned about them having enough energy, you're talking about how they were able to attain glucose from the apple because of due to photosynthesis. Now, their body converts all this glucose into energy, or ATP, through a process known as cellular respiration, which we will be talking about now. This man's taking a walk in a flower valley, taking all the oxygen around him. He gets hungry and pulls out an apple from one of the trees nearby and eats it. He later does some exercise and notices how there's a bunch of heat around him and he's getting sweaty even though it's a cool day outside. His body just went through cellular respiration, which is a process that releases chemical energy from sugars and other carbon-based products to make ATP when oxygen is present. ATP is that stuff that causes the heat to come out when cellular respiration happens. Cellular respiration is an aerobic process, which means it requires oxygen. However, mitochondria cannot directly make ATP due to the fact that it requires them to break down the food into glucose. That's where glycolysis comes in. Glycolysis is an anaerobic version of cellular respiration, or you could just say cellular respiration without oxygen. Although it doesn't make much on its own, it's still a game changer due to the fact that it boosts the amount of ATP you get during anaerobic or cellular respiration. Cellular respiration begins, it goes into its first state, the Krebs cycle. In the Krebs cycle, 3 carbon molecules from glycolysis enter cellular respiration in the mitochondria. They move through the matrix, an area enclosed by the inner membrane, and all that's left when it comes out is ATP and carbon dioxide. After stage 1 is completed, it's time for stage 2, the electron transport. During the electron transport, energy-carrying molecules from glycolysis and the Krebs cycle enter stage 2 of cellular respiration. They move into the inner membrane, and when they are out, ATP molecules are produced, and heat and water are released as waste products. In conclusion, photosynthesis and cellular respiration are kind of like a symbiotic relationship, whereas photosynthesis provides us with oxygen and glucose because it has to make plants grow. Meanwhile, cellular respiration, which we do, helps plants grow by giving them the carbon dioxide, water, and ATP/energy that they need. It's a cycle of matter and energy that will never end until